Hey everyone, welcome back. It's me, the part-time economist, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to do 3 different types of t-test in Jamovi. So I'm going to show you how to do everything from a software perspective, but just as importantly, I'm going to talk about the differences between these 3 types of t-test and why you might want to use one t-test versus another. So with that being said, let's go ahead, let's jump right in with the most basic form of t-test, which is the single sample or one sample t-test. Now, the reason that we would want to use this is if we are evaluating a claim about one specific group. So as an example, let's suppose that I am teaching a statistics 100 level course, and it's one of those huge intro courses. It has 200 students, right? I don't want, and again, this is just an example, I don't want to go through and average every single grade by hand. So what I do, I sample 20 students, I get their scores on a midterm exam, and what I want to do is I want to do a single sample t-test to evaluate whether the average, the mean score in the class is equal to 87. So the way I do that, I enter my data, I go to one sample t-test, and what you'll notice is that Jamovi allows us to select any column we have, right? So I could do class 1, I could do class 2. Now what you're going to notice is that it will populate the test for us. Now we need to make sure we are checking the student's t-test. We're going to go to the test value. We want to test the claim that it's equal to 87. And what you'll notice, it gives us the test statistic, right, the t-stat. It gives us the degrees of freedom and the associated p-value. Now, we are testing right now a claim of equality, right? That is a two-tailed test. We could also do that it is greater than 87 or that it is less than 87. Now, a couple other things I want to show you, because when we are doing a t-test, right, very rarely are you just going to do a t-test and forget about everything else, right? When you're doing a t-test, you're also going to include some descriptive statistics, which you can do with just the check of a single box. So it's going to give you the mean, the median, the standard deviation, the standard error, all of those things. And then we can also do a normality test. So it's going to give us Shapiro-Wilk, and we can also do the QQ plot to visualize our data, right? So that's pretty cool. That is the one sample t-test. Remember, one sample, we are evaluating one specific group. But as you saw, I have more than one class, right? I have 2 different classes. So how do I do a test of 2 independent classes? Well, the way that I do that is with the independent samples t-test. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting, because we can't just add 2 dependent variables here, right? We can't do that. That's not how it's going to work. So we actually have to set things up a little bit differently. So let me load up a new screen and I'll show you how that test works. Okay, so when we are doing the independent samples t-test, we can't just do class 1, class 2. The way that we have to do it is we list all of the scores in one column, and then we list the grouping variable in a second column, right? So I'm just calling this class A for the first 10 observations, and then class B for the next 10 observations. So I've got 20 observations total. Maybe I should have more observations, right? Like, I'm just using this as example data. But the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to go to independent samples t-test. I'm going to put scores as the dependent variable, and then the class group goes as the grouping variable. Now, everything else is the same, right? I can do descriptives. I can do the QQ plot, the normality test. Now, this is important because when we're doing the independent samples t-test, we do want to assess the homogeneity of variance, right? So we click on that and it's going to give us the test. It looks like it does Levene's by default. So again, that is the independent samples t-test. Now, again, this is where things get interesting, because you're thinking, okay, I have the independent samples t-test. Oh, before I forget, let me explain why you'd want to use it, right? The reason we're using the independent samples t-test is because we are testing 2 different groups, but they are independent, right? So let's suppose I'm testing a statistics 2000 class that I taught last semester and a 2000 statistics class from this semester, right? They are different students, there's different instructional material, all of those things, right? So they are two independent samples, but there is also a matched pairs t-test. We use the matched pairs t-test when we are trying to essentially pair observations, right? So let's suppose that let's suppose that I have a pre-test and a post-test, right? So I evaluate students when they come in to Statistics 2000. Day one, I give them a test about statistics and I see how they do. And then at the end of the entire semester, I do a follow-up test, right? I am comparing the same student before and at the end of the semester, right? So these two things are matched. Now, again, this is where we've got to think through how we're going to do this in Jamovi, because it's not the same as the independent samples test. So let me load up one more screen and I'll show you how that one works. Okay, so when we are doing the matched pairs test, again, we need to have the two columns side by side. So I've got class 1, I've got class 2. Now, in the interest of making sure this is easy, I'm going to go with pre and I'm going to go with post, right? Just so we keep it straight that these are the same thing, right? They're the same students pre and post test. So let's go with t-test. Let's go with paired samples. Now, what I need to do is I need to enter the pre and post test. What you're going to notice again is that it is going to conduct that test. Now, keep in mind, when we're doing the matched pairs t-test, we are testing the equality or inequality of these two samples, right? We're not testing the mean is equal to 87, right? The mean is equal to 92. We're saying, are these equal? Is one greater or is one less than the other? So we're just going to go with the two-tailed test of equality. And then again, we can do descriptives, we can do descriptive plots, we can do QQ plots, right? Like all of those things. So I know this video is a little bit short, but hopefully it gave you a basic understanding of what the three types of t-tests are, when you would use each of the different types of tests, and how to conduct these tests in Jamovi. So as always, I hope you found the video useful. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.